and their future seed development. Okay, so where are we going to put these data centers? We're going to plop them in the middle of a farm, residential area? And what land can they take through eminent domain to run their transmission lines and gas lines through? Because it's already happening, all right? We haven't even touched on issues like air pollution, light pollution, temperature increases, decreased real estate values, and the fact that these bring very few permanent jobs to the area. And here's a new one, a latest concern, these huge hyperscale data centers can be major magnets for terrorist activities. So they're targets, all right? So when you post a concern about these AI hyperscale data centers on Facebook, and someone else calls you a hypocrite for using Facebook to post it, they are misunderstanding the relative scale and usage of different types of these data centers, okay? I respect that we're a nonpartisan group here, so I want to be very careful in the next section because I'm discussing policy and laws. I touched on some of the ones that we do have and don't have already. During the legislative session that just ended, a state representative from House District 52, Dr. Jermaine Johnson, introduced a joint resolution, which was House Bill 5526, prohibiting government entities of this state, its counties, and municipalities from accepting or taking any action on permits or applications for data centers using peak demand, 5 megawatts or greater, blah, 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 you know, the whole rest of them. In essence, it was to halt all larger data center construction until we plan for the massive amount of energy required to operate them without hurting our communities, our infrastructure, and our resources, until the lawmakers catch up and establish a comprehensive regulatory framework. It's sitting in a committee somewhere, gathering dust. Okay, but these things can be done. Other states have done it. Minnesota enacted a law requiring large data centers to cover their full utility costs and necessary grid upgrades, and also has mandatory clean energy sourcing and ratepayer protection built into the law. This is an actual law, unlike some of the meaningless little pledges going around on the federal level in an attempt to assuage the concerns of the electorate. This little pledge is not a binding law. It holds no weight at all. So don't be fooled by that theater. In addition to Minnesota's strict guidelines, other states and cities are starting to follow suit with guidelines and moratoriums. New York, Georgia, South Carolina, like we mentioned, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Oklahoma, and Maine actually passed the moratorium law, but their governor vetoed it. Yeah. So here in South Carolina, various counties have already passed moratoriums, such as Anderson, Fairfield, and Greenwood counties. And if you've been following the news, we know that Spartanburg and Lawrence County are at various stages of trying to do something here. Okay, so in addition to moratorium laws, there are other things we can do and should be doing by looking at what these hyperscale AI data centers really are. We could also implement a TIC tax, and I just love that, a TIC tax. It's a technical industrial complex tax, because these facilities aren't providing only cloud service or storage, meaning they're not the platforms for social media networks. They're not a streaming platform like Netflix or Hulu. These are actually manufacturing facilities. They take our data, all of it, without permission, without compensation, and they manufacture new products based on what they want from us or how they can monetize it, okay? So we could also force them to provide a decommissioning bond, which is a financial guarantee to ensure that they will safely close down, remove, and clean up their site when the facility's useful life ends or they go out of business. So money is currently flooding into South Carolina. Lobby money, grant money, corporate money, PAC money, cryptocurrency-backed groups with money, etc. all for the purpose of getting these data centers built. In addition to what I feel amounts to actual bribes, these developers have been getting sweetheart deals and incentives to build, namely major tax abatements like VELOs and MCIPs that amount to over 13 million in tax exemptions in our state alone, which I'll add takes money directly out of the communities we live in. It takes money from our schools, from our police and fire departments, from our emergency services. South Carolina is one of only 14 states that doesn't disclose how much revenue it loses to these tax breaks. So these global corporations win while the taxpayer doesn't even know what the tab is, okay? So why here, South Carolina? Well, to put it very crudely, you'd only go to the whorehouse if the women are cheap, loose, and easy, okay? Here, land is cheap, labor is cheap, laws are loose, guidelines are non-existent, politicians here mostly swing in favor of big corporations, and, sad to say, overall, education and community involvement are low here in this state. So in South Carolina, we're starting to get whiffs of county council and city council payoffs, forced NDAs or non-disclosure agreements that bypass and hide things from the public, and outright lying, okay? So this is in addition to those sweetheart deals, tax abatements, and sizable donations directly into the pockets of some of these political campaigns. So I encourage you to investigate the funding of some of these politicians' campaigns, both sides, okay? Because this is a hot button issue, and now it's becoming more of a bipartisan issue, and it's an election year. We're going to start seeing some of these politicians, especially incumbents, suddenly saying they're not in favor of these data centers. I urge you to follow the money on both sides, okay? Because I don't believe them. The money they're taking is telling a different story, okay? If this issue is important to you, I encourage you to continue to be involved, rally, protest, write your government officials on all levels, call them out. I'll leave you with a slide listing several things we should encourage our legislators to look at and studies that they should be doing before ever approving these data centers. And then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
We have a couple of questions. Does anybody else have a question? You can get it to us. The first one is, how can we stop giving them permission to take our data?
Oh, let's start with an easy one. Yeah. How can we stop them from taking all our data? I'm thinking Tim is going to help with that a lot more than I will, so I am going to defer to him. But the laws we write to protect people are what's important before we're protecting companies. So look to your legislators, okay?
The next one is there any history of fires or explosives or other incidents at the huge data centers?
Yes, good question. Is there any history of fires or explosives or problems at other data centers? Yes, and I'm just going to assume they meant, other than a terrorist act or, criminal act. So yeah, there was one data center, I don't remember where it was, that was burning, and it ended up burning for like 50 hours. Because when they called the fire department in, they would not allow all the firefighters in. They would only allow a few in at a time because of privacy stuff that they had. So it took an extraordinary large amount of time for them to even get services in to do it, to take care of the situation, yeah. So yes, there have been fires. Yeah.
How many of these AI data centers are in South Carolina?
Oh, the hyperscale ones are we talking about? All right, how many of these hyperscale data centers are in South Carolina. I do not know the actual count, and we'd have to look at by size where to, categorize them. So, sorry, I will look that up.
And I had a question I thought of, but a lot has taken place since January 2025. But it seems like I recall this administration wanting to do away with states regulating AI and wanted to put it on the federal level, but that didn't happen, correct?
Luckily, that did not happen yet. But increasingly, we're looking at overreach on all levels. So, yeah, kind of cuts both ways. The federal government has tried to do this. We know that the current administration is really pushing hard for these, giving incentives, having the people they endorse or support speak in favor of them. We have a candidate in a runoff right now, that has been saying, what's the big deal? Yeah, these are great. Yeah, go live a week behind it, for a while and tell me what you think. But, and then states are trying to override municipalities also. So while we may have a Spartanburg that can come out with a moratorium or something, then we have to be concerned, well, is that going to be overridden by a state law? So there are a lot of complexities to it.
Does anybody else have a question? I can give you the microphone. But we can change all this if we do what come November?
Yes, vote.
Get your friends to vote.
That was really bad. We're gonna do it again a little bit later. Vote!
The legislature, before it adjourned in the spring, passed a bill that would put a moratorium to January 1st of 2028 onto approval for data centers. Is there something that's changed since then?
Yeah. And again, this goes to complexities. Ms. Wright asked that since January, before they adjourned, she said in the spring, sorry, that's where I got hung up. I'm a little ADD. So they didn't adjourn in the spring because they couldn't balance the freaking budget. But okay, so they adjourned in the summer, and they had different things in process. Now, when you end a session, some of those just get canceled, okay? Some, if they've moved into committee, they may still stay in committee. You can stay in committee forever, for years. So you can say, I want to feed all the hungry, okay? And I'm going to put a deadline on May to address it. It doesn't mean anything. So right now, currently, I feel no impetus to really get this done. But the people are starting to make that noise heard. So that will help.
All right, well, is that everybody? If you do have any more questions after Lynn leaves and we all leave today, you can always email us and we'll get them to her. Thank you so much.